In giving people a second chance. From time to time we all make mistakes. When someone makes a bad choice, when they regret that choice and ask for forgiveness, I hope that we'd all generally believe in giving that person the opportunity to redeem themselves. But when that same person or an organisation makes the same bad choice again and again and yet again, you know what? Our patience gets a little bit stretched. When those choices involve lawlessness and criminal activity, Deputy Speaker, our patience should run dry very quickly. When an organisation racks up $15 million worth of fines, when its officials have committed 106 separate contraventions of the law, and when it has got 80 more officials still facing the courts, we can't tolerate anymore. This is the situation, and those opposite think it's funny. They think it's funny because they know that they are lock, stock and barrel owned by the CFMEU. This is the situation we find ourselves facing in the form of that most lawless of rogue unions, the CFMEU. Would the Minister first, therefore, please advise the House of what consequences for workers and ordinary taxpayers the government has identified which would flow from allowing the CFMEU to continue along its path of lawlessness unchecked? It's been noticeable that the unions have been in the newspapers a lot recently, calling for various changes to the law. I suppose that they can see the weakness of this leader of the opposition as clearly as the member for Grainler can. But it's surprising that the unions are so keen to change the law when they show no interest whatsoever in obeying it. Just last week we saw the latest manifestation of the CFMEU's culture of criminality. The federal court fined the WA CFMEU and its official Brad Upton a combined $51,300 for a threatening and abusive rant against employees at the Gorgon LNG plant in 2015. Mr Upton called the ordinary workers he claims to stand up for dogs, among a number of other unsavoury things. He threatened to display a list of non-union members on the site, implicitly encouraging retaliatory action against them. He also informed workers that Gorgon was a union site and that further union sites would be opening soon at which non-union members would not be welcome. I'm sure those workers, Madam Deputy Speaker, knew exactly what he meant. Like the CFMEU, Mr Upton has a long track record of this sort of behaviour. In October 2012, he was found by the federal court to have used, and I quote, racially tainted, obscene and offensive language, unquote, on a Bechtel site when the union's accommodations were not up to the standards apparently he'd become accustomed to. Now, individuals, those opposite can make fun of this, they can make a joke of this, but we actually think this is very, very serious. This continuous lawlessness which is being perpetrated by the CFMEU on building sites right across the country impact not just on big businesses, they also impact on mum and dad businesses as well, costing hundreds of thousands of dollars a week. Every time the union blackbans a site or blackbans a small business. It's an absolute disgrace. Minister, individuals like this cannot be allowed to continue to terrorise and abuse ordinary working Australians. Would the Minister therefore please outline for the House what the government is doing to ensure that individual union officials are held to account for their unlawful actions? In the case of the CFMEU, however, it is far from a few bad apples like Mr Upton who are the problem. The CFMEU has proved time and time again that it is fundamentally, systematically, even gleefully supported by their parliamentary wing, lawless at an institutional level. Justice Geoffrey Flick said of them, and I quote, "It's difficult, if not impossible, to envisage any worse conduct than that pursued by the CFMEU. Justice Rangier stated that their conduct was deliberate, flagrant and systematic, while Justice Vasta suggests that it is no understatement to describe the CFMEU as the most recidivist corporate offender in Australian history.